You hear the word ceasefire, and it sounds like the beginning of something good. It sounds like peace, like progress, like the nightmare might finally be ending. But when you look closer, when you look deeper, what you begin to realize is this: ceasefire doesn't mean peace. It doesn't mean the hate is gone. It doesn't mean the fear has faded. It means the game just shifted. The silence isn't safety. It's strategy. What the world is witnessing between Iran and Israel isn't a declaration of harmony. It's not a testimony to reconciliation. It's a pause, a calculated break, a momentary breath drawn not out of love, not out of forgiveness, but out of necessity. Because the players involved, both of them, they don't forget, they don't forgive, they reload. A ceasefire in moments like these is not the product of trust. It is born out of pressure, out of survival, out of optics. It's like two wild animals circling each other, not because they've decided to become friends, but because they're waiting to see who flinches first. It's the calm before the storm, not because the storm has passed, but because the winds are waiting to shift. When missiles fall silent and the sky's clear, people want to believe that maybe the worst is over. But what they don't see is what's happening beneath that silence. The preparation, the repositioning, the recalibration. War doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers. And in those whispers, plans are made, lines are redrawn, and new targets are chosen. Now look around. You'll see the press conferences, the handshakes, the promises. You'll hear words like a mutual understanding and a path to peace. But understand this: when two nations with decades of bad blood and battlefield history suddenly decide to lower their guns, you have to ask, why now? What's really changed? Is it compassion or is it calculation? Because peace requires change. It demands transformation of the heart. But a ceasefire, that only demands patience. It requires you to wait, to watch, to pretend for the cameras. And when the cameras are gone, when the attention shifts, the real game resumes. This pause, the ceasefire, it's not a sign of healing, it's a tactic. And tactics serve the battlefield, not the human soul. Iran and Israel didn't suddenly come to a mutual respect overnight. They didn't just wake up and say, let's end the suffering. No. They're watching each other, analyzing weaknesses, testing alliances. The world may see peace, but they see positioning. They see intelligence reports, satellite images, intercepted communications. This is about who gains the advantage, not who finds the light. It's about momentum, not mercy, and every second of silence is used to plan the next sound of rockets, of retaliation, of ruin. Look at history. Ceasefires come and go like the wind. How many ceasefires have been declared in this region? How many a temporary halt that led straight back to carnage? Because when the core issue is not addressed, when the wound is not cleaned and stitched, only festers under the bandage of a truce. And when it breaks open, it bleeds more than before. Peace cannot survive in the soil of suspicion. It cannot grow where both sides dig trenches in their hearts. It can't breathe where hatred is watered daily by propaganda, ideology, and the ghosts of revenge. People on the outside want to believe the best. They want to believe that after so much death, the leaders have had enough. That maybe, just maybe, they'll choose the lives of their children over the pride of their generals. But the truth is this: when governments choose pause over progress, when they choose silence over solutions, it means they're not done yet. It means they're gearing up, not giving in. And the people, the ones who bleed, the ones who bury the bodies, the ones who pray for dawn, they're left to carry the cost of this pause. We must not be fooled by stage diplomacy, by words that sound sweet but ring hollow. Real peace doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need a press conference. Real peace shows up in the way people treat each other when no one is watching. And right now, behind the curtains, neither side has put down their arms. They've just switched hands, and they're waiting. Timing is everything in war, and this is just a new kind of timing, a new kind of weapon. Ecological, political, global. Understand this: the battlefield has changed, but the war has not. It's not just guns and bombs anymore. It's sanctions and speeches, it's cyber attacks and espionage. It's propaganda dressed up in patriotism. And ceasefire is just a new camouflage. It hides the same old intent. Power, control, dominance. The real fight, it's still alive. It's just wearing a different uniform. And while the world claps and calls this progress, the suffering hasn't stopped. The wounds haven't healed. The scars haven't faded. Children still sleep in fear. Families still mourn the lost, cities still wear the black cloak of trauma. And none of that disappears with a signature or a headline. You can't pause grief, you can't pause injustice, you can only bury it. And even then, it finds a way to scream from the ground. So no, this is not peace. This is not the end of the war. It's a break, a breath, a momentary lull in a song that's far from over. And unless hearts change, unless leaders are willing to bleed for peace the way that people bleed in war, we will be right back here again, watching the skies, counting the days, waiting for the next shot to shatter the silence. Peace isn't found in pauses, it's found in purpose. And right now, the only purpose behind this ceasefire is position. And when the pieces move again, when the silence is no longer useful, when the strategy calls for sound, make no mistake, a fire will return. When the guns go quiet and the bombs stop falling, most people assume the war has ended. They look at the news and see a lack of explosions and think that peace has finally arrived. But war isn't just what you see, it's also what you don't. The truth is, the real battlefield is no longer confined to the desert or the border. It's digital, it's psychological, it's diplomatic. And in the case of Iran and Israel, the ceasefire doesn't mean the end of conflict. It means the fight has simply changed form. Because while the missiles may be grounded for now, the real war is still being waged in the shadow. It's happening in government war rooms, intelligence agencies, encrypted messages, and in the manipulation of public perception. The silence is not the sound of peace, it's the whisper of strategy. These two nations have been engaged in more than just traditional warfare. This is an information war, a cyber war, a political chess match being played across multiple arenas. Ceasefire or not, both sides are actively influencing regional players, buying time, assessing damage, and shifting alliances. The absence of gunfire allows them to recalibrate, not reconcile. While diplomats smile for cameras and issue press releases full of optimism, operatives work behind closed doors, planting seeds of distrust, sabotaging systems and building coalitions that serve their long-term vision. Israel and Iran are both nations that understand power beyond the battlefield. They understand narrative. They understand timing. They know the value of appearing restrained, of looking like the reasonable party in the eyes of the international community. They know how to play the game of optics, and in that game a ceasefire becomes a tool. It's not a result, it's a tactic. One side uses it to soften their image, the other uses it to rally internal support. But underneath that smile, both are sharpening their swords, just not the kind made of steel. Today's weapons are words, data, sanctions, and secrets, and in that realm, the war never paused. Espionage continues even when the rockets don't. Sleeper cells are still active. Surveillance is running around the clock. Every intercepted communication, every intercepted drone, every failed cyber attack is a battle in itself. That's the modern landscape of warfare. Israel might not be firing missiles right now, but they're certainly watching. Iran might not be launching drones, but their networks are buzzing with encrypted intelligence. They're both gathering, analyzing, decoding. Because in this new age of war, victory belongs to the one who knows more, not necessarily the one who fires first. Propaganda is another invisible front in this quiet war. Messages are tailored, not just to enemies, but to allies, civilians, and foreign governments. Every press release, every headline, every viral post is a strategic move on the global chessboard. Each side is working to control the narrative. Who started what, who retaliated, who was justified. They are rewriting reality in real time, bending facts to fit agendas, casting themselves as the victim or the defender depending on who's watching. And the world, often too distracted or too divided to fact-check, ends up absorbing that version of events without realizing they're part of the war effort too. Because when you control the story, you influence the battlefield before the first shot is even fired. This war in the shadows has victims too, though their pain is often invisible. Economies suffer under the weight of sanctions and uncertainty. Civilians become pawns in psychological operations. Infrastructure gets quietly undermined through sabotage and digital attacks. A power grid flickers. A water supply is contaminated. A major port experiences unexplained malfunctions. No bombs, no fire, no smoke. But the damage is just as real. It's surgical, it's silent, and it's deliberate. That's what makes it even more dangerous. because the enemy you can't see is the one that's hardest to fight. Or, while the ceasefire might suggest peace, it is actually a perfect cover for preparation. Both sides are rearming in silence, making new plans, shifting forces, coordinating with allies, and collecting intelligence that could make the next strike faster, stronger, and more devastating. This is not a break driven by empathy. It is a breath taken by tacticians. It is the quiet of a predator crouched in tall grass, not out of mercy, but out of calculation. The next phase will not be random, it will be rehearsed. And make no mistake, outside powers are involved too. Superpowers watch closely, fund quietly, and position themselves advantageously. Proxy players prepare to re-engage. Deals are cut behind closed doors. Arms are sold under the table. Technology is shared with unspoken conditions. The ceasefire gives everyone time to move their pieces into place without scrutiny. It is a moment of global adjustment disguised as peace. Everyone is watching. Everyone is planning. Because the Middle East isn't just a conflict zone, it's a testing ground. And Iran and Israel aren't just adversaries. They are symbols. And in geopolitics, symbols carry weight that missiles cannot. What makes this so dangerous is that the average person sees calm and assumes resolution. They go back to their lives, hopeful that the worst is behind them. But hope without awareness is a setup for betrayal. The next wave of conflict will not announce itself with a siren. It will arrive through crashed systems, through misinformation, through a coincidental act of violence that ignites old wounds, and then the cycle resumes. Because nothing about this ceasefire addresses the root. Nothing about this pause touches the real reasons for the hostility. It only creates the illusion of control while the chaos simmers underground. That's why we must not be fooled by what we see. We must train our eyes to look beyond what is presented. This is not a period at the end of the sentence. This is a comma in a long paragraph of unresolved rage, competing visions and historical scars. The real war is still active. It never went away. It just changed clothes. And unless we acknowledge that truth, we will continue to be surprised when the peace we thought we had explodes right in front of us. This is not the end. This is a reorganization of the same old storm. You can write all the agreements in the world, sign every treaty, gather every official from every side at every table, and still miss the one thing that actually makes peace real: healing. Because peace is not a document. Peace is not a photo op. Peace isn't found in a moment where two hands shake for the cameras. Real peace is in people, and people in this conflict between Iran and Israel are still bleeding, still burying, still waking up from dreams that look too much like the nightmares they've already lived. So when they say there's a ceasefire, when they say the violence has stopped, you have to ask, has the pain stopped too? Has the fear left the room? Has the hatred been buried alongside the dead? Or has it only been hidden, tucked just beneath the surface, waiting for the next wound to reopen what was never healed? You see, real peace is not just the absence of gunfire. It's the absence of the reason behind the gunfire. It's when a child in Tel Aviv and a child in Tehran can both go to sleep without learning the language of fear. It's when a mother doesn't have to wonder if the sirens will sound before dinner is over. That's peace. But right now, that's not what this is. What we have is a silence that's being mistaken for reconciliation. What we have is a political move that looks good on paper, but hasn't made its way into the hearts of the people on the ground. You want to see if peace is real? Don't look at the border. Look at the brokenness. Look at the faces of those who have lost. Ask them if the ceasefire brought them comfort, if it brought them justice. Ask them if it made them feel human again. Peace that does not acknowledge the wound is not peace. It's denial, it's performance. And when you perform long enough without healing, you start building a new kind of war inside. A war of resentment, of bitterness, of vengeance passed down like inheritance. Because when the soul is scarred, silence feels like punishment, not peace. And too many souls on both sides of this divide are walking around with open wounds. Grief has no ceasefire. Trauma does not wait for a truce, and unless those things are named, faced and healed, the war continues, not in headlines, but in households. This is why ceasefires can only ever be a beginning, not an end. They can open the door, but if nobody walks through it carrying compassion, understanding, and humility, then the door might as well stay shut. Because what lies on the other side of that door is not just policy, it's people. People who have seen their homes reduced to dust. People who have watched history be rewritten in the flames of their own losses. People who are told to move on without ever being allowed to grieve. Peace must go deeper than declarations. It must dig into the soil of the soul and plant something new. Something rooted in the dignity of all human life. Not just the life you agree with, not just the one that shares your faith, your politics, or your flag, but every life, every innocent who never asked to be caught between rockets and rhetoric. If you listen closely, you can hear the voices that don't make it onto the news. The father who says, "I don't hate them, I just want my family safe." The mother who says, "I don't want revenge, I want relief." These are the seeds of not the speeches from podiums, but the quiet cries of the people beneath them. The ones who build, who raise, who mourn, who pray. The ones whose faces never make the headlines, but whose tears could flood the deserts if the world just paid attention. These people are the ones who will either carry peace forward or pass pain down to the next generation. And right now, they are waiting to see if this ceasefire means anything. Not in theory, in reality. Because real peace, real change, begins when a nation stops seeing the other side as a threat and starts seeing them as a mirror, a reflection of humanity, with the same fears, the same dreams, the same love for their children. You strip away the politics, the borders, the centuries of division, and you'll find people who just want to live, who want to love, who want to wake up tomorrow without wondering if it'll be their last. And if a ceasefire can't recognize that simple truth, then it's not peace. It's a performance, one that ends as soon as the lights go down. This conflict has lasted for decades because too often the decisions are made without the heart, calculated, strategic, code. But peace is not code. It is not clinical. It is messy. It is raw. It requires confession. It demands vulnerability. And no strategy, no matter how well crafted, can substitute for the courage it takes to say, "We were wrong. We hurt you. We need to start again." That's the kind of statement that leads to real change. That's what begins to pull the poison out of the wound. So what now? Do we pretend this ceasefire is a turning point? Or do we do the harder thing and ask what it really means? Do we dare to admit that true peace will not come until every shattered home is matched with a rebuilt one? Until every orphaned child is matched with an honest answer about why their world burned down? Until the rage of the past is replaced with the responsibility of the present? Because if we don't do that, we are not heading toward peace. We are circling war, wearing different clothes, speaking in softer tones, but ready, always ready to pick up the sword the moment the mask of diplomacy cracks. Peace is possible, but only if it is rooted in justice, in truth, and in love that transcends politics. Love that says no life is disposable. No child's blood is worth the pride of a politician. And no amount of silence should ever be confused for peace unless it comes with healing. Until that day comes, this ceasefire is just that, a pause. Not a promise, a break, not a breakthrough. And unless we start tending to the wounds of those who have suffered most, we will find ourselves here again. Different month, different headline, same heartbreak. Because peace isn't declared, it's lived. And right now, too many people are still just surviving.